I'd like to welcome everyone to the COSA Shop Talk with FamilySearch today. We're going to get started here. So the title is Shop Talk with FamilySearch. What can we do for you? So I think we're going to hear some interesting things about projects and services that FamilySearch has to offer. Next slide. So we're going to have a presentation from FamilySearch, and we'll have time for questions and answers. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in chat, or we can have you raise your hand at the end, and we'll see what we can do to let you talk about it. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jong and Larry Telford. Gentlemen.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. And we really appreciate being able to speak with everyone today and share some of the wonderful things we're doing. And, you know, how can we help? It's Christmas time. We're not going to deliver your Christmas presents. I'm sorry. So we'll leave that up to you. But we are excited to be able to visit with you a little bit and show you some of the things we're doing. As you can see, we have our objective is to enable inspiring journeys that bring joy to all people as they discover, gather, and connect their families, past, present, and future. And why do we do this is a question we get a lot. This picture here is actually the Salt Lake City, the temple in downtown Salt Lake City. And it's been under reconstruction. It was built back in the 1800s, took about 50 years to build it originally. It's solid granite, and they wanted to make it earthquake proof. And so it's now been earthquake proofed, and they're in the process of working on the insides, et cetera. They're taking down the scaffolding right now. We spend a lot of effort on building temples and making them available throughout the world. As we, the FamilySearch is actually a division of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And as a church, we believe that families can be together after this life, and that we can strengthen relationships by understanding who they were. And so there's a real strong desire to do that. We don't expect anybody else to believe what we believe, and it's one of the reasons we do this. And there's a great benefit that comes to this to people throughout the world as they want to find their family members for whatever reason they want to find it. And so they're so happy to be able to use our free resources that are available online, and the continuing expansion of material that's available. So we're very focused on enabling that to happen, to make it easier for people to find their family members. And Larry and I will both talk about that a little bit as we go throughout the presentation today. And we also believe that family history research can help people face life's challenges with strength and wisdom. I mean, it helps. There's been a lot of research that's been done on that to understand exactly how understanding your family can help you psychologically, particularly youth, to face some of the challenges that exist today. And there's a professor, Robin Fivish, who is at Emory University and has done a lot of research in that. You can actually click on this and go to the presentation that she gave at the Rootstech event that we had last year, where she spoke about that. And she spoke about the impact that knowing family history and knowing family stories actually has on children, and how it strengthens children and families. Another quote from this study, one of the researchers said, "Hearing these stories gave the children a sense of their history and a strong intergenerational self, giving them connection, strength, and resilience." So these are some of the reasons that we do this, just to help people connect together and have stronger families. We think it'll help the world. So I'm going to turn that time over to Larry right now, who's going to talk about some of the great tools that we've recently made available to enable people to find their families. Larry?
You bet. Thank you. So FamilySearch has been actively working with using AI to assist us in all sorts of different directions with FamilySearch records. One of those is a full text search. Now we're going to let you look at something that is in beta right now. So this is in beta testing. It's available to all users, but it's not easy to find. And so these next two slides are going to show us how to get there One, you have to be a registered user of FamilySearch. That's free. And so from FamilySearch.org, you can see a place where you can open an account if you don't have one, and then register, become a user. Once you are registered and logged in to FamilySearch, the next thing you need to do is go to a place called FamilySearch Labs. This is where a lot of our beta testing occurs, where we have different features that we allow people to push against and use and see what they think. I'm not going to remember exactly. I think that this has been just almost a year now that we have had, maybe 10 months, that we've had full text search available for people to play against. It happened to be that we put it in beta, it instantly became very, very popular. This is an opportunity that we have taken to use AI to look at a number of different record sets that we have, convert them by looking at each image and then converting those to full text, and then allowing that full text to be fully searchable. So if you either using the QR code or the link at some point in the future, you can go to Labs if you followed the previous steps, and then if you can go to the next slide. Once you're in Labs, there you will find a tile. I'm not going to take a picture of it because and show you, because it just seems that we're always changing up the way the page looks. You're going to look for a tile that says full text search, and from that you're going to be able to below it there'll be a button that says go to the experiment. So if you click on that button, that's going to turn that feature on for you, and you'll never have to go back to that again once you have the feature turned on. And then this is a link and a QR code to the full text search feature. But for it to work directly, you need to make sure you're logged in first. So if you can go on to the next slide. This is what the page currently looks like. So I will tell you there's a little bit of a red herring you have to be careful about. Where it says find a collection, don't use that box. If you use that box, it takes you out of full text search. So where it says start your search in the photo box above, that's where you're going to start. There are several advanced search tips. Many people are going to probably pass these by. They are also available as you're to be seen as you're using the search. But let's just go over some of those real quickly. So one of these is find an exact word or phrase. And so you're just going to put whatever you're interested in, and you want it complete. So they're like 2-3 words, or you have a word, let's say Henry or John or something, and you want it exactly that, put it in quotes. And if you do so, then it will search with that. You can also use a plus sign if you want to absolutely make sure that in other words, if I have multiple search criteria and I want to make sure that this extra word or phrase or name is in there, you need to put a plus sign in front of it. And that will make sure that that always is included with all of the rest of your search criteria. You can do a minus for the same purpose, to make sure that if a particular word or phrase is wanting to be excluded, you can exclude it with a minus sign. You can use wildcards, meaning that you can use question marks to indicate in a particular letter. You can use an asterisk to indicate any number of letters that should be included before or after. And we'll give you some examples as we move through. So if you go to the next slide, please. So I just decided to see what I could find. I was looking in New York, state of New York. And so I just set the time period. You can see over in the search box here on on the right, that I selected New York. Now that will be a standardized locality, meaning that I started to type in New York, and then it had a drop-down list that I could pick from. And so it standardizes it to that. That helps our search. And then I picked a date range. I was looking for a specific person. And so you can use quotes, for instance, in this case. So like in this case, it was a Benjamin Tanner and his wife. And I was looking for Anne. Now, I went ahead and did another search after this, where I was going to now go find Jonathan. I liked Tanner was too common, and if you have a name like Smith or Jones, it's a little harder to do this. So I thought I'd select a name that might be a little easier to look at. So if you'll go on to the next image, please. So as I did the search for them, you end up with sometimes thousands. In this case, because I was so specific and the name was so unusual, there were about 3 or 4 examples that I found. One of those was where he was an executor for a will, but I was not looking for that particular thing. It didn't tell me executor because I hadn't used that term, but as soon as I went here, then I could see that this was actually a record for an executor. So I wasn't interested in it, but it had pulled his name out. Now, it should be mentioned that when you're doing this, this is amazing. This time period that I'm looking at is in the 1700s, while this text, I think, was probably transcribed a little later than 1700s. The accuracy is really good. I think the bottom kind of end of our accuracy is probably in the range of around 80%. And it goes up into the high 90s by the time we're into typewritten. And it's not, I should mention as we're doing this, the AI portion of this is, yes, we've had handwriting recognition, for a number of years. But part of what this does is it also tends to look at what the context is around the word to help select what would be the best choice for that word if the score is a little low on what it thinks that word might be. Go to the next image for me, please. So this is a picture of what the screen looked like when I got the results for Johannes Dürje and his will, looking for his wife. And so I had put in that I was looking for Johannes Dürre in quotes. I had plus for the wife. And so you can see that his name is highlighted in yellow in the upper portion. And then the word wife appears multiple times there. And I think about the third instance of wife, we then see the name next to her. Now, if you'll notice over on the right-hand side of that, you'll notice that there's all of the text, and that corresponds with what you're seeing. Now, in many of the cases, when we were using old microfilm and scanning this digitally, microfilm, it was very convenient to do an open face of a book. So you have 2 folios showing at the same time. The text can get a little long, and then when you're searching, results from the left-hand page may be mixed in with results on the right-hand page. So you may have to scroll around a little bit to find that the text is scrollable. And the text can also be copied. Go to the next image for me, please. So this is a close-up of that particular will. And again, we see that we end up with the name of Anne showing up several times here. And let's go on to the next one. This is the text. I lifted it from that, put it in format here that it made it just a little easier to read. And if you were to read through this, you find that the accuracy, considering this particular will was transcribed into this book in 1789. And you can see how wonderful this is. Yes, there's a few mistakes that are in there, but and I'm just throwing out a number, but I'm guessing we're probably close into the 95% range for accuracy. And the wonderful thing about this, now we think about Johannes Dürje, and as I went back and checked some of the records, in no record could I find his wife's name indexed anywhere. I could find Johanna Sturje because it was his will in the will record. But in terms of who his wife was, I could not find that. And so we have this wonderful information here, nor do I know any of his children. And so interestingly, about the middle of this, you'll see an area where it names his particular children. But now this is not, this allows and facilitates the next slide that I'm going to talk about. So if you can move to the next slide. I took that text and put it into an AI engine. I happen to have used Copilot. And I just said, give me a summary of the relationships and key points about Johannes Durje's will. And so based on that, this is what it kicked out for us. So I find out that here is his wife. It talks about some of the key points of what her responsibilities are. Here are the children listed, which I hadn't sought, but from a genealogical point of view, this is pretty important. And then I find out that his executor, one of them is a son-in-law, the other is a nephew. So great information. All of this in a record that would have been totally inaccessible less than a year ago. We would have known who Johannes Durje was, but we would not have had the opportunity to know all of the rest of these kinds of relationships. You go to the next slide for me, please. Now, where this begins to become really important for us is when we think about some of our underserved populations. If we think about African Americans, formerly enslaved persons, very difficult sometimes to pull out information about them. So in this case, I wanted to use, if you look under the keywords, and I hope it's not too small for you to see, I wanted to use a word manumission, but manumission is a little long and it precludes other words like manumit. So I just shortened it up a little bit, put a plus sign in front of it, and then used an asterisk afterwards so that manumission, manumit, any other forms of that I could find. And then I was looking specifically for an Amanda whose mother's name was Winnie. And I didn't want to put mother in because I didn't know how they would put this. So I just had Amanda and I had Winnie in there. And I knew that they were in Texas. These were women who were enslaved at the time. And the results came back and I had 2 different hits. And so if we can go to the next one, I'll show you the results of some of this. So this was the will of an Albertine Arwines. And in this will, he manumits a number of different slaves that he was holding. And so we had this whole long list. And then as you can see, it highlighted for me, Amanda, who is the daughter of Winnie. And then it mentions that Winnie has a son, and then there's another daughter. This particular will was just replete with these. Again, because this was a will, Albertine Arwine would have been the only person, or perhaps his executor would have been the only persons who would have been indexed, even with our own indexing, because we typically did just the principals in this. And in terms of what you would find in most courthouses, you would find only the names of the principals, and then, as I say, occasionally the executors. So again, I now took this full text as information, and if you go another slide forward for me. I put this again into Copilot and asked it to provide, in this case, give me this outline, the slave relationships mentioned in this will. And this is what it output for me. So I end up with this wonderful, wonderful information where we have 4 women with a number of children, each born to them and outlined. In terms of African-American research, this would be a gold mine. If I already knew a few facts of having had, for instance, an ancestor whose name was Amanda, and I knew that she had been formerly enslaved. So I don't know for sure what her last name might have been. And I don't know what her mother's name. I know her mother's name, but I don't know necessarily what her mother's last name would have been post, emancipation. Using that information, I was able to come up with this wonderful information. Okay, can you go to the next slide for me? So, FamilySearch is working with NARA. We had a number of records which they had asked if we would help and facilitate for them to do a full text transcription. Now, the wonderful part of this, that was the advantage for us in this, was that they also had the text, which we could use as a truth set to help establish a good baseline for these images as we put them through full text search. And then doing so, we were able to then provide back to them some full text that they were able to use. And you'll see here is a transcription program. I'm going to give you a link to it in the next slide. And so if you'll move, yeah, there you go. Thank you. So this program, you can go watch this with YouTube video that was there and see how they were using full text search. Now, in case of NARA, the National Archives, they are using the text to supplant their volunteers who are going through and doing a manual transcription so that they can either use it to help them work through problems or to supplant some of the things that they would normally have done as transcribers. But it's a really great use of one of these full text search. Now, full text search provides an opportunity, and I would not say for a beginning genealogist, but for those who may be a little more skilled. Full text search has become a boon to them for finding lost genealogical information. Just today, I was using it and had found a birth record, and I'm sorry, a reference to birth, and then a marriage record in a state that I didn't know. I knew my ancestors had been there, but I didn't know the county or anything else, and I was able to, just using full text search, narrow down into a particular record within a very short time. So wonderful uses of AI in the future, and I say near future, meaning maybe the next 6 months or so. We will probably move our full text search out of beta, and it will then be available from our main page. I don't know where that's going to be on the main page or how it's going to look at this point, but that's certainly one of our most exciting, I think, new features where we're now making, and I should mention making available these images. At this point, we are just a little under 1 billion. That's a B, not an M. 1 billion images have so far been full text treated and are in this. And that's from our worldwide collection. But for North America, we are probably close to 400 million images that are in our current collection, or perhaps a few more than that, that are full text transcribed so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. So, Larry mentioned the billions or the billion that we have in full text search. This just gives you an idea of our existing collections. We have 13 billion searchable names. That will now increase as we get these additional billions of names that are added through the full text search process. We've got 5 billion digital images, 1.5 billion names in the one global tree. But genealogists are never satisfied, and this is one of the reasons that we're continuing to facilitate this work. And so, how can we help? And there's several ways that we're thinking about. One is to link to existing collections of already online images and indexes. There are organizations, there are states, there are counties there are countries throughout the world that have had created collections of different record types that are searchable with the names on their website. And we want to continue to support that. What we would really like to also do is to get a copy of the indexes that they have and then incorporate those into our standard search protocol, so that if somebody is looking for a John Smith in Orlando, Florida, they can type in John Smith, Orlando, Florida, and not only do the results that come back show the images that we have captured in the past, but they also show a link to the images that are online at the archives in the county that Orlando's in. And so then the person, in order to see the image, clicks on a link and it takes them exactly to the website that's there. So it's a way to drive traffic to websites that already have online images and indexes, and be able to increase their ability to meet the needs of their consumers, their patrons, their citizens. Adding index names to our search historical records, and it's just a real great opportunity to expand that. Here's an example in search, our historical records. So the entire collection, and this is a way that we're showing a linking example, can be searched for a name. And in this case, James William Smith. His name shows up as Find a Grave, and then there's a link that says click on View on Find a Grave, go to the image, and then this is what shows up. So you see exactly the image that Find a Grave have posted on their website with the information relating to James William Smith. So there, as I mentioned, there are some organizations. We've got a couple of states here that have made images and indexes freely available on their website. I've just got 3 examples here that I'm showing. One is Washington State, their archives, the Utah State Archives, the South Carolina Archives. Each of them have images and indexes. Their search tools are slightly different, but the objective is the same, and that is to provide people with access to images that they have captured, that they have digitally created over time, and then indexed so that they can be searchable and findable. Now, as how can it benefit you as an archives? It boosts your website's visibility as people are searching, and it drives people to the website to go look at the images, and it increases traffic. It enhances your credibility as a source of information, and it can potentially lead to reciprocal linking. So where other sites link back to yours, or contributing to a better search optimization ranking. So it's a win-win-win situation for the patron, as well as FamilySearch, as well as the archives that are involved in this. Now, another element that I'm going to show you is the FamilySearch Wiki. So we have created a wiki that has over 100,000 articles from different localities throughout the world that you can search to find out what information is available in those localities that relate to doing family history research. So the opening page looks like this. And then you click on whichever geography you want to do research in. If you want to click on North America, you'll get the states, and within the states, you can then just go to the counties. You can do the same for other parts of the world and scroll down to, or click through to the geography that you're looking at. And what you end up with, for example, is Huntington County, Indiana. And there's a long list of material here. Rather than going through all of it, because it's a deep dive. As you can see, the table of contents just keeps going, and it's an amazing resource for genealogists to be able to find out what information that is available on the FamilySearch website or on other websites that are related websites that can enable them to do the research to find their family members. You can look down here on the courthouse. It has a link for the county courthouse website. Under the health department, there's a link for the health department, and so on. This is a great tool, and one of the challenges that we have, frankly, with this tool is that things change constantly, as you know. Counties and states are always updating the information that they have. They may have a collection that they are now making available online that they spend a lot of time digitizing and indexing. And so, and we may not know it about it because we're not constantly asking people, hey, what have you done lately? We would love to work with you and have you check your websites, your portions of the wiki, to see if it's correct, to see if we're missing anything, to see if there are new things that you've added that we should add to this research tool that would really help patrons to understand how they can find their families using the FamilySearch Wiki. Another element is that over the years, we have done all of our work, most all of our work in digitization in local facilities, starting in about 1938 when we first started to microfilm records, using volunteers that were generally members of our church who were retired, and they would go out and they would go take pictures. We would set up a project in a locality, we'd provide them a camera, we'd teach them how to use it, and they would create microfilm images. And in the last 20 years or so, we've switched from microfilm over to digital, as that's become the way that people are more readily available. You can access images a lot better that way. You don't have to go to a special library or special location. You can do it in your pajamas at home. And so that process has enabled more people to find their family members more quickly. And so we are now switching to not only just working with the volunteers that we've worked with in the past, but also using what we call a multi-service vendor. And these are folks that will come in and they will take pictures and they will index them concurrently. In the past, we had to wait sometimes years before anything could be indexed and made more readily available. So this is when we set up a project now, we set it up with one of these multi-service vendors to do both the imaging and the indexing. One of the folks that we work with, one of the multi-service vendors, is Ancestry. You probably all know Ancestry, but there are other commercial companies that we work with who also do the same thing. And we've done this on a global basis and we're expanding this. We think that this will be a way that we can really hasten the work that we're trying to do and get more material available to more people sooner. Another thing that we'd like you to know about is that we have the Rootstech conference that comes up every year. This year, it'll be in the beginning of March. And that's an opportunity to see what's new at FamilySearch. It's called Rootstech because it's all about roots, finding your roots, and the tech part is the technology part. And so our technology friends and partners will be there and we'll be presenting the latest things that they have going on in terms of how they're facilitating, enabling families to connect with each other. And there's lots of new news that's really exciting. Every single year, people are just thrilled to see what's next and what's coming up. In the past, we've had about 20 to 25,000 people come to the Salt Palace. It's our convention center in downtown Salt Lake City. And because of COVID, we actually had to stop that. And so we went online. And so we now have an online presence. This last year, we had over 4 million people that attended Rootstech. We anticipate it might be double this coming year. We're just finding lots of interest throughout the world. We have over 200 people representing 200 different countries. We translate it into multiple languages so that it's available to people in their own mother tongue. And we have special classes that are available online that are taught by experts on how to do research, where to get the records, and how they can find their families. We also understand that COSA is going to have their conference in Salt Lake City sometime in September. And so we're looking forward to having you come here. And we have some free resources like the FamilySearch Library, which is the world's largest family history library. And we would love to show you around and show you how it works and the kinds of tools and fun things that we have available to make genealogy more than just something that's looking up names, dates, and places, but it becomes an exciting opportunity to connect with family, learn family stories, be able to preserve family stories and make those available to people. And this is all free. We have no hidden costs for any. There isn't, if you attend Rootstech in person, there's a small charge, but if you're online, it's free. And for the coast people that come to Salt Lake City as part of the COSA conference, everything that we'll be showing you that around, the library and maybe other places will be available for free as well. Oops. I just lost my image. Are we still there?
Yes, we can still see the slide
Okay.
deck.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened here. So I'm just going to go through here without trying to bring the big screen up. Okay, so as I mentioned, Rootstech, we've got a persistent library also of courses that were given in the last few years, so that you can go back through and try to find out, how to find your family in Germany, or how to find your family in Italy or other places. Every year we have keynote addresses that are given. This year, one of the keynotes will be given by the grandson of Nelson Mandela. And so we're excited to have him present and talk about whatever he's going to be talking about. And we've also have some Olympic champions, Tara Davis Woodall and Hunter Woodall, talking about their Olympic experiences, and the world-renowned artist Dana Tanamachi. And she'll explain how family history has opened her eyes to beauty and the importance of creativity through adversity. And so there's just lots of things to see and do there. So our invitation to you is to, first of all, encourage the people that come to your facility to do research to use the FamilySearch website and use the full text search, because there are a lot of names in there that they'll be able to find things, just as Larry was explaining to us. They'll be surprised at what they can find when they use full text search. Contact us if you'd like us to consider your genealogically significant records that you've got in the full text search processing. And so we would love to see that. Okay, I'm not in control here. Oops.
You can share it again.
Okay. Let's link our websites together, as we talked about linking. Help us update your wiki presence. So if you've got changes you'd like to make, contact me, and then we can work through how we can help make those changes and make them available. And then invite your patrons to attend Rootstech for free for this year, and we'll provide specific information. And then encourage your patrons to sign up and use the free FamilySearch.org website. So thank you very much. This is the picture of the library, so that's the place you'd be going. And now we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Larry, for the presentation. Let's see. I think we have we do have a comment, and I think we need to maybe share that with everyone. I don't think it went out to everyone, so let me do that. Copy.
So
Anyway, we'll ask John. One question we've got is, how long does it take to set up a digitization project?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking. So usually it takes a few months. We have an agreement that we need to sign and that gives us the rights to go ahead and publish the images. Of course, there are images that are in the public domain, but we still need to make sure that we have the rights. So we work through the agreement process, and sometimes there's some questions that need to be answered on both sides. And so that will kind of go back and forth. That probably takes the longest time to kind of get set up. And it can be quick, and it could take 3-4 months type of thing. Then once that is done, then it takes us another month or two to bring in one of our multi-site multi-service vendors to come in and take pictures. And so they will set up, they'll find somebody locally that can come take the pictures. They'll provide the training and make sure that they're competent and they're able to do the work right. So I think from start to finish, or from start to start, or from begin to start, is probably about 6 months.
Okay, great. And then how quickly do you complete a project, the imaging and indexing or transcription?
Yeah. So that depends on the size of the project. So our camera operators typically take between around 400,000 images per year. The indexing also takes time. So if you've got a project that has, say, 1 million images, it probably takes 2.5 years to take the pictures. And then it would take another maybe 6 months or so to do the indexing and make that available. So that's, start adding it. All depends on how big the project is.
Okay, we have a question from John Dugan. Can you do projects without a multi-host vendor?
We do have to have somebody take the pictures. So whether it's a multi-service vendor, or we do have some missionaries that we call them missionaries, but volunteers that can also take pictures. And in some cases, very remote or unique, we also have local volunteers that will assist in taking pictures. In fact, we have a project right now in Hawaii where we're going to have some local volunteers that will take pictures rather than flying somebody from the States. And Larry and I are more than willing to fly to Hawaii to go take pictures for a year or two, but we're not going to do that. So we'll rely on the locals to help us.
Great. We had a comment in chat, or kind of a question in chat. Oh, here's another one. I just want to say that your full text search is an amazing game changer. I've already started using it for some patron questions, have seen the system growing as I test certain names frequently that I know should be appearing. It's truly a wonderful tool that will change the genealogy landscape. And that was from Vicky.
Vicki, thank you for doing that and for mentioning that. I have found that when I tell people about full text search, like their eyes start to glaze over. They don't quite understand what I'm talking about. And I have to really start getting very specific. It's handwriting. It's hard for a computer to figure that out and really get into the details. But the point is, at the end of the day, it unlocks records that have been locked and inaccessible for centuries. I think of this Revolutionary War project that we have done with the National Archives. We had 2 million images in the project. The National Archives had transcribed, they had their volunteers, the citizen archivists, transcribed 35,000 of those. Those are the copies that they gave to us to help train the computer a little bit more. And I've kind of looked at this, and it took us about 3 to 5 months to really get the agreement in place. So we had the right concepts that were in the agreement that we had with the National Archives on how to make these available and who was going to do what, et cetera. Then it took us another 4 or 5 weeks to train the computer. And then frankly, it took less than a day for the computer to actually scan through 2 million images and make all of this stuff readily available. So it's miraculous. It's absolutely unbelievable how we're able to provide that much data in that short a period of time. And we'll see more of that. It'll hasten. I mean, this is a growing thing that I think everybody that's in the records business is very excited about.
Great. Another question. How could we set up a project to have you link to our images?
Just call us. Give me a call. My email was on there. I hope we can, or contact your local FamilySearch representative if you have one that you know about. That we're happy to start the process of doing a linking project like that.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions from the audience? We've seen several come in and answered them. Anybody else have anything, or would someone like to raise their hand or ask a question that way? And while you're thinking about that, I have one more question for you, John. How long does it take to set up a transcription project?
So again, that part of that depends on how long it takes to do the the process of getting the agreement in place, so everybody's on the same place. That takes a couple of months. Setting up the project will also require training the computer. So depending on the records that we have transcribed in the past, if they belong to that area and there's nothing new or different, then it's pretty quick. Otherwise, it may require some training of the computer. There's a kind of a funny situation that we learned in doing the Revolutionary War records. I know many of you are historians, and we had Hessian soldiers, German soldiers that actually helped fight on our side against the British. And when that widow came in to ask for her pension, she would show the material that the government was asking her to provide. Well, oftentimes she only had like a Bible page, or she would have a German marriage certificate. And so all of that is in German, it's not in English. And our computer was trained to read English. And so I asked our engineers and said, okay, so what did the computer do when it ran into the German instead of the English? And they said, well, it kind of said, Uncle, I don't know how to do this, and moved on to the next page. And so I said, oh, okay. Well, is it possible to do it? And he said, well, it is. We just need to let the computer know up front that it's going to run into German, and we need to train it on some German stuff. So the possibility exists that it actually could do multiple languages at the same time as it's going through a record collection. So you have that, we have that situation in Canada with French. We have that all over Europe. I mean, we're a global organization. We do this, like Larry said, 60% of the transcriptions that we've done so far have not been in English. And so when we do these other languages, if you're doing Catholic Church records in South America, for example, there could be a lot of Latin words that are mixed in with Spanish words. And so training the computer correctly is part of the trick. So how long does it take to set up? It all depends on what we've set up already, what we've done already, if it's already been trained on that record type, and then and then if it's been trained correctly, and we're getting the right results, because we try to see, is this what we want? Are we getting to 80-85% correct? Then we move forward.
Okay. Another question from John. He was the one that was asking about, he says he thinks that the AI tool seems to be ideal for finding obscure details. I'm just making up these examples, like cats in probate records or juries of inquest in county court minutes. And then, so there's two questions. Will the keyword search work just as well on these types of searches? And Larry had responded and said, yes, that it would.
It will.
And then the next question is, will the AI tools work with tabular records?
Yes. In fact, actually, it's easier. So once the computer understands how the record is set up, it can then begin to identify and even create to the level of, and I'm going to get too technical, but it could then literally create an index, not just a full text search, but with tabular records, you can literally create indexes, because we can begin to identify how the different components of the record fit together.
Excellent, thank you. I'm not seeing any more questions, so thank you everyone who submitted a comment or a question. I know if you have further questions that both Larry and John would be more than happy to have you reach out to them for a direct one-on-one. So with that, we want to remind you that we've come to the end of the year for our COSA and Siri webinars, but watch for next year for the schedule of what webinars are coming, and watch for future shop talks as well. As always, there are lots of ways to communicate with COSA. We hope you use as many as are appropriate for you. And with that, I want to thank John and Larry for this presentation today, and thank you for attending. And we'll see you at the next shop talk. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
And wish you all a happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.